Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakat, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, today I'm looking at prophecy as usual, and at the minute there's a lot of civil unrest in the UK. If we go to the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, starting at verse 1, says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, says, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Says, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity, the disbelief of them that trouble thee, that speak against thee. It says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. And it says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. It says, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and the hurtful works are fulfilled." So plagues are coming to the earth. That's what we keep warning you about. As I keep saying, Donald Trump, he's that man that's specifically been put into place by the Most High to turn the world upside down. There's a time where obviously we're living under the rule of the Edomites, the beast system, which is controlling the earth. And the beast system, obviously the way things are, the world around us, this is an upside down world. The laws of the Most High are all broken, and with that everything is then upside down. You have women in authority over men, for example. You have things that are against the law according to the Most High, but then they're made legal in this particular society that we live in. Right down to the way you read and write. You read and write from left to right. But in your ancient self, when you had your own, as Israelite people, when we had our own traditions and customs, we knew what they were. We had our own language. We were able to fluently speak it and write it. We would have written from right to left. So there's many examples of how living under these Edomites, the world is upside down, and obviously the Most High is turning it back around. And so with that, we're going to have a lot of destruction, a lot of plagues have been sent forth to the earth. It's going to be a great time of trouble that we're entering now, called referred to as Jacob's trouble in the scriptures. We're looking out for World War III. We're looking out for the implementation of the MOTB, which is spoken of in Revelation 13. But along the way, civil war is going to be a big part of the end time troubles that we're going to witness. And you can go to many different chapters, thinking of Matthew chapter 24. You've even got Isaiah 19, which we'll go to in a minute. But this one's Second Ezra chapter 15. I just want to jump down to the main point. Verse 16 says, "For there shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power." So that literally describes, civil war, if you like. People, the masses, going against, it says here, kings and princes, leaders, politicians, the people in power. And it says invading one another, and they should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. So whatever they decide to do with this power, there's power in numbers, and that's what the scriptures are telling you, that the people are going to get together in numbers and use that power against the authorities. If you go to Isaiah chapter 19, it's speaking to Babylon the Great itself. This is a message to Egypt, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4, for example, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, which is Donald Trump, which is the reincarnation of Nero. It says, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. So it says, and the waters shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. So, going into failing of the economy. It says, and they shall turn to the rivers far away, and the brooks of defence shall be emptied and dried up, and the reeds and the flags shall wither. And as you go on, obviously it speaks of the issues, the destruction, the judgment that is coming to America, the time that we're literally entering now. But then you go down to verse 14, it says, Yahweh have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. It says, and they have caused Egypt, which is one of the code names for America, it says, to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So Yahweh, it says here, have mingled a perverse spirit. This is what we're seeing now. As I keep telling you, Donald Trump is the man that's going to turn the world upside down. He's the cruel lord. It says, the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord. And so with that cruel lord comes a perverse spirit. And that's the perverse spirit we're seeing, taking hold in America at the minute. And it's, it was already there. But it's obviously, it's increasing now. So, we go to the word perverse. This is, let me get the pronunciation as if it's right. And the description here pretty much goes into distorting or perverting or warping. So when you hear the word perverse, people usually apply that to sex. If you said describe somebody as a perverse individual, they, in this day and age, people tend to think that perverse applies to a sexual connotation, but not necessarily. You could apply it to many connotations, because the word perverse means a distorting or perverting or warping. So you could say, for example, these false prophets, for example, IUIC, you could say that they are perverse because they distort the truth, they warp it, and they pervert it. They teach you the truth. It starts off by telling you that you're a Hebrew Israelite, so there is truth there. And then along the route, they twist it, they distort it, they shape it the way they want to shape it, away from what it actually is. And then it becomes distorted, and that is when they lead you into understandings of hell. There's a place called hell, so on and so forth, which there isn't, which there clearly isn't according to Scripture. So, the word perverse, you could apply that to false prophets. You could apply it to America, Babylon, the beast system, the way it operates, that golden cup, that the Most High made the earth drunken through America. It was all perverse. But the Most High is going to turn up the perverseness, as He's telling you. He's going to correct the perverse. You've got to send in another perverse to turn it around. If you're going to distort, if you think you distort a piece of metal, you bend it, and that it's not in the shape you want it to be, then how are you going to get it back? You then got to distort and pervert it to get back to where it was. You bend it back into shape. So that's what the Most High is doing. And obviously with it, there's also an element of judgment. So this spirit is in America. And if you think back, or not even that, if you go to, for example, Revelation 16:13, it says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast. It says, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So this is talking about the beast system. We know that if you like, the center of prophecy, from here on in is pretty much coming out of America. We're waiting for the implementation of the MOTB. We're waiting for the destruction of America. We're waiting for Armageddon, which takes place in the Middle East. But that will, kind of get there when Babylon the Great America intervene and create a problem with what the small hats are doing to draw everybody else in. So we're still watching America on all aspects. But so, for example, the MOTB, when it gets made mandatory there, we know it's going to be made mandatory all over the world. So your eyes should be on America, even if you're not in America, which I myself am not. But at the same time, you've got these three unclean spirits like frogs, and so these represent. You've got the UK, you've got America, you've got the Vatican. So America represents the military part of the beast system, and then you've got the financial part, which is represented by the City of London, which is not actually the UK. It's actually a separate state from the UK. It's its own state, and it's in the heart of London, and it's called the City of London. So when when you live in an area in the UK, you vote for a member of parliament in your particular area to represent your constituency, and that whoever you vote in will then go to the Houses of Parliament to represent you when the government talks about what's going on in the country. But the City of London don't vote that person in. They just have one guy which they send all the time, and he just works for them. And they have their own state. So that's where all the financial power is, within that financial state. And then you've got Rome, the Vatican, which is the religious state. So again, he says, look, and these come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, the beast system, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So if you're a prophet and you're speaking Roman Catholic information, you've basically got, coming out of your mouth is that unclean spirit, and it's coming from the Vatican, and you're part of the beast system. So you can tell someone that you're a Hebrew Israelite, but then now you're scaring them with the idea of a false hell, underground inferno. There is no place underground which is a fiery inferno where your soul gets sent after death. So even though you're teaching people they're a Hebrew Israelite, you've still got unclean spirits coming out of your mouth when you teach Roman Catholic doctrine, just like IUIC. But so now you've got these spirits. So now you've got a connection between Babylon the Great America, the City of London, and the Vatican. And then you go back to that perverse spirit which the Most High is sending. So then you go back to like Brexit. And so what's happened in Brexit? This man got sent, Nigel Farage, and he pretty much got the country to believe that if the UK, if you leave the EU, if we leave the EU, we'll be better off. We've got all these rules and regulations, and we're told what to do. Like, I'll give you an example. As they say back in the day in the UK, if I was working at a job and I needed to go up the ladder, I could just go up the ladder. Now you can't go up the ladder unless you have a second person to hold the ladder, and that's health and safety regulation brought in by EU. Now you could say that's a good thing, it's not a good thing, because you now need two people to do the job, so it's double the wages. For one man to go up a ladder, you've got to pay two people. But then some people say, well, it's health and safety. And so this goes all around, all across the board with everything. Measurements were changed, everything's changed to fit into the EU. So, this man came along and said, look, if you vote to leave the EU, you can go back to good old Britain. And now this is part of prophecy. You go back to Daniel, the statue, 10 toes, iron mixed with clay, and the UK eventually breaking up with the EU. And there's a type of spirit in that the Most High sent to fulfill prophecy of Daniel thousands of years later, and he made it happen right in front of your eyes to say, there you go, there's another prophecy fulfilled. So then you witness this event, and I remember at the time, so watching then 26, that was 2015. So 2016, who came in America? You had Nero, DJ Trump, aka the reincarnation of Nero, and he came with that peace and safety, the MAGA. So we're going to fix everything, we're going to correct it, we're going to put it all back. And I remember at the time watching, I was on night shifts and I was watching the rundown to the presidential election in America, blah blah blah. And a lot of the talk was, people were looking at Europe and looking at the UK, these Americans, and they were going, well, these people are standing up, for their sovereign rights, their identity, these Edomite and Caucasian identity. You've got these foreigners with different languages, even though a lot of them are all Edomite nations. That you've got these foreigners telling you what to do, controlling you, influencing your country. Everything's in a bad way, but the Brexit seemed as if a point at which the people of the UK stood up and fought back against that whole scenario. So what happened then? David Cameron, the Prime Minister, had to resign. He looked silly because he's the one who said, okay, we'll call for the vote. They had the vote. People voted for Brexit. It won. So he looked like an idiot, so he left. And then in quick succession, you had a few different Prime Ministers in England because it was unstable. People were coming in. Everything was a mess. You didn't really know what you were dealing with. But the American people took that all on board and ended up voting in Trump. So they're taking on board that whole thing. Well, we'll do what we're... I remember watching it. I remember seeing people saying it at the time in 2016, saying, yeah, we're watching what's going on across the water, and we want to do what the British people are doing. We're voting. We're going to vote for Trump. We're going to take back that, make America great again, peace and safety. So the peace and safety spirit really started then. And then so you had 4 years of Trump, and then he got voted out. They had Biden. Really, the voting is nothing. It's the elites playing with you, playing with your emotions, and prodding you, and just putting certain people in the shop window to present certain things. So at the minute they've put Donald Trump in the shop window, and they're going to tell him what to present to you, which is going to be the MOTB, the Third World War, so on and so forth. So you had this spirit, you see. So it went from England to America, that Brexit, to vote Donald Trump in, MAGA 2016. But then you see the Most High's had America manifest in that 4 years of Donald Trump didn't quite do the job. 4 years of Biden, now everything's got even worse. So now they're dying to have Donald Trump back, which is what they did last November, a year ago. They were dying for Donald Trump. They voted him in. But Donald Trump's got an agenda. So we've seen now since January to now, it's not quite what these people thought. So the civil unrest in America is, starting to boil very nicely. People, you've got obviously Donald Trump setting up these task force to go out and hunt immigrants. He's turning, militarizing police departments across America, so on and so forth. But meanwhile, what's happening in the UK, in the other, where the other mouth of the, speaking of the unclean frog, speaking through this particular mouth over here in the UK, it's that civil war problem, like what you witnessed last year in America, for example. You had a lot of people talking about immigration, this, that, and the other. It's a big problem. Look at these people. They were filming stuff. They were putting it up. And then that gave them the reason to say, well, we'll give you Donald Trump. You voted it in. Whether the vote counts or not, we don't know. But they gave you Donald Trump as the answer. Well, look, you've got immigration problem. Here's Donald Trump back. And so Donald Trump is now signing executive orders. And maybe, the MAGA fans are starting to realize Donald Trump ain't all that he was cracked up to be. But these English people ain't clocked that. So they're still riding on Donald Trump's come in and he's just kicking out immigrants. So they're hyped off that. and they're like, we want our politicians to be like that. So guess who rears his ugly head again? This man, Nigel Farage. You see, you can tell these people are just paid. He's just paid. Every time there's a opposition to what the government are doing, and there's a big problem, they get him to step up, and he's a paid opposition, so he pretends to be on the other side, but really, how come he keeps turning up at these particular scenarios? So, um, I've spoken of it before. You've got obviously the Albert Pike letter to Mazzini. You can look this up. I'll leave the link for all these things in the description box if I can. Albert Pike letter to Mazzini. This Illuminati Masonic plan. Says the following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding conspiracy involving 3 world wars. When you read the Third World War, it says it must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agent of the Illuminati between the small hats and the other small hats, the Muslims. It says the war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, small hats, mutually destroy each other. And then it goes to say, meanwhile, other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion, which is what's happening now. So that's what I'm explaining to you. So you've seen that in America. We were all watching America. You saw the problem a year ago with immigration. You saw the man who came to fix it, which is Donald Trump. But then now the MAGA fans are going, well, hang on a minute. You're taking this a bit too far. You're not really doing it the way we wanted you to do it. You're not really the guy that you're all cracked up to be. And that's because of what we've been telling you. He's just following the agenda. And the agenda is going to take you to this new world order. Revelation 13, the MOTB, the device under the skin. They need all these problems. They need a breakdown in society. They need a crash of the economic system to give you a new digital system, to give you a new way to be able to keep you safe, track and trace, immigration. If you've got a device under your skin, they know whether you're crossing the borders or not. They're unleashing AI on you at the same time. You look in China, you've got all these role models around the world. You look at China, they've got this credit score system. They've got 15-minute cities. That's another thing in the UK that's going on, 15-minute cities. And so the civil unrest will lead you to all that. It says, meanwhile, the other nations once more divided. Yeah, we read that. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery and the most brutal turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, which is basically the MOTB. This is what it is. They're basically about to grind everybody down to the point of, you've only got one answer. Take this device under the skin, we'll keep you safe, we'll track and trace, and you'll be able to buy into this money system because everything's breaking down at the same time. And so it's amazing, really, when you read it in that much detail and you look around, it's actually happening to a T. You go, and this is where, so, with my channel, I can't really, if I play videos, I get a copyright. If I play videos and hit the mute button, they do me for they say, oh, you've got moving images, which are not yours, copyright. So I don't want to play anything, and I don't want to have no soundtracks in the background. But I'll show you these channels, and you can kind of see. what's going on. So before I get into that, so you got like obviously you got this situation with the same as America, immigration, and then what they do is they use social media to influence people to get them angst up, if you like, and as people are taken to the streets, it's got to the point where um, people are like putting up these flags everywhere. So you go all around the UK now, and this is all you see. Even the other day, I went out and I had to go out to do something, and I went to wherever I was going. I knew who I was going to meet, and when I got there, we did what we got to do, and then I left. But while I was there, like he's going to me, I got my hat on. I got my hat on, and I looked at his hat. He had the friggin' British flag up there, and he's looking at me like he wants me to go, yeah, 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 like and start talking about it. And I just kind of went, yeah, 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 and I just got out of there. But this is what it is now. You're in this, just like in 2020. Did you take the thing, or did you not take the thing in 2020? If you didn't take the thing, maybe you're killing us. So now when people talk to you, you have to think about what you're saying. They're saying, what are you saying about you? So you got to say, yeah, 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 it's terrible, mate. Yeah, paint your flags. You got to give it all that talk, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to navigate through society. But really, they've turned into like, you look at this, what makes me laugh is, where is it? There was a bunch of alphabet people here somewhere. And they've pretty much just turned into the alphabet crew. Where are they? So see these people here, look. This is what they do. We're here, we're queer, get used to it. That's what they do. And so they're just doing the same thing. That's what I don't get. They just, but what it is, this is how the government works when they have an agenda and they pay the opposition. It looks like this. So you saw this. This was clearly government backed. You had a few people. The government got a few people to create these images, these flags, this, that, and the other. Had this whole. It's how can I describe it? It's not like a business where you start off a shop and then a few years down the line you develop and progress and evolve. They come ready with everything, images, posters, flags, and then as soon as the campaign starts, they're just out there. They just appear out of nowhere. Just Stop Oil, these alphabet people, and now it's they've created the same with this. But what happens is, you see, with this, it's obviously borders on the edge of racism and patriotism, and so what it does is it brings out your thugs. I remember when I was young and I was about 10 years old. So my mum said to me, she goes, because what it is, I'm an Israelite, and then but if you look at me, you'd think I grew up basically thinking I was Sikh, Indian, but not just Indian, but Sikh. There's a difference between like a Hindu Indian and a Sikh Indian. And what it is really, when you trace it back, the Sikh people, or the people from the Punjab, actually go back to Israelites. But that's what I grew up as. And then when I was young, my mum was saying, "Oh, you need to learn I learn English because I'm growing up in England." And then she's like, "You need to learn Punjabi." And I was basically like, "Nah, I don't need to," because I was just ignorant kid, British westernized kid, which is what westernized children, a lot of them are, the way they're brought up. They're given too much freedom, but then they're told they're not an adult until they're 18, so that whole time they take the piss. You've got 15-year-olds going out robbing people, and they'll go, "No, he's just a boy, he's just a boy." Yeah, well, he's old enough to hold a shank to your face, but he's just a boy. So this world's mixed up. But remember when I was about, I don't know, 10, 12, whatever, mum's going, "Oh, you need to learn Punjabi," and I'm going, "No, I don't. I'm living in England, and I speak England, and I can speak to everybody that I need to speak to, so it's cool." And then she's going, "Nah, you don't get it." And she goes, "One day we might have to go home." And I was like, I'm looking at her like, "What are you talking about?" So you couldn't see it because you're so integrated. You grow up in this world, in this Western society, is a little bit like Hellenization, Westernization. You don't know of your own culture. You grow up in this culture, and everything you see around you, you say, well, you want to be part of it. You want to be part of something. So you end up being part of this culture, but you're not really from that culture. When you come to the truth, you realize they stole the culture from you. And so, and then it gets even more twisted, even more perverse. But it's ironic because now you see all this problem create, you understand prophecy, and you say, damn, it's true. Look, we're getting ready to go home, but not to speak Punjabi, to speak the Paleo Hebrew when we go back to Israel. And we ain't going to go off our own backs. We're not going to catch a plane. You know, Lord willing, we catch that chariot and we make it that way. But yeah, this stuff's happening, and it's kind of like, you know, when you look at it, you see all this stuff happening. It's kind of like you think, damn, you know, it would be alarming. Let's put it that way. If I didn't have the truth, and you're seeing this happening now, this whole situation would be very alarming. But it's not, because we understand prophecy. We understand why it's happening, and you know, we believe we are of the elect. So we, you know, we pray to the Most High, and we hope that we're delivered out of the troubles. But jumping over to so this whole situation with the flags, the civil unrest that's happening in England, it's leading to protests, and it's all fueled by social media. Here's a video here, flag vigilante. So one of these people putting up the flags and stuff, because they come, they paint it on the roundabouts, they paint it here, they paint it on fences, and then the council come along and they paint them back to the normal colour. So then they do a video, and they go, oh, you see, these council people, they're against us, they hate us. And it's like, well, no, the roundabout's supposed to be white. You painted, you know, technically you graffitied on it, and it's not your property to actually paint. But because they're going, but no, I did it for England. I did it for England. So, you know, because you want to go against it, you know, you're the bad guy. I mean, it's just a bit like 2020. But it says here, look, flag vigilante outed as ex-BMP and convicted people smuggler. So he's been convicted as a people smuggler. He's ex-BMP. So BMP in the 80s, 90s, you had the BNP, British National Party, pretty much skinheads, English, white, Caucasian, and if you had any type of level of brown skin, you know, they just wanted to basically break you in half, snap you in half. So pretty much, you know, the British version of the NAZIs. But yeah, so it turns out that this guy who used to be part of that, and also a convicted people smuggler, is a flag vigilante. It says Manchester's chief flag raiser has put his people smuggling days behind him. So they'll go through this particular article, and this is pretty much, it's back to that paid opposition. You've got people, you know, you go on comment boards and people are following it, they're getting amped up by it. But at the same time, you have a lot of AI bots that leave messages in there, and people don't realize, so that it kind of gets them going, and they're very vocal, and you can see by the things they're saying online, there's a clear, is, you know, they're creating a race war. They're creating a race war pretty much, and you know, a little bit like how, you know, you got Donald Trump, Nero. He's obviously segregating. When first of all it was immigration, but now he's targeting Israelites in terms of the northern tribe, and then, you know, the southern tribe. Now he's going to Chicago and all these other places. You know, what they're doing in England is they're working up. You can see the pattern of play. So here's another one: a recipe for carnage. Migrant hotel guard flaunted guns online. Who's vetting these people? So migrant hotel security guard shows guns, money, and phones on social media. So you see, it's all this, like, it's BS basically. They just, you know, all it takes is just to film a 30-second video like this. You can't even see his face. How do you know? You know, he says, I'm a guard from the hotel and this is what I got. Yeah, but how do you know that's really him? How do you know he didn't show his face? But this is how stupid people are. And what the media do, they'll just show, you know, put it up there and they say, look at this, add all these little bits up together. And that's how they're working the people up. Like I say, you've got ex-people smugglers, going out, creating this, doing this, at the forefront of this campaign for the flags. And now they've got these dodgy social media videos of all based around the. I mean, look, put it this way, right? They're attaching it to the immigration, migrant, hotel security guard. But if you're the hotel security guard, then you wouldn't be a migrant. You'd be someone in England with a national insurance number who the hotel would employ to be a security guard. They wouldn't just get the first person off the boat and go, "Do you want to be our security guard? Oh, there you go. We'll stick a uniform on you." But now they've got an illegal immigrant working as a security guard. That's why it doesn't say illegal immigrant. It just says migrant hotel. So the migrant hotel, but the security guard shows guns. So what's that actually got to do with the immigrants? It's like me working at a hotel, going and then making a social media video like this. But what's that got to do with the people in the hotel? You don't even see their faces. It's all nonsense. But these people out here, on one hand, it's frustrating because you see people buying into it. But on the other hand, you think, well, what can you expect? I mean, it is prophecy, so it has to come to pass. And then I came across this one, right? So this guy, the savior, this little brat, and check this out, right? He's got 2 videos. Look, F the small hat. Street interviews kick off, right? And then street interviews go wrong. So you can see what he's going out asking political questions. Look at him. I mean, does this person look like he's ever watched the news one day in his life? Yeah, he's going out asking these political questions. 13 days, right? Check this, 13 days. And you go to the shorts. And he's got all these shorts. Look, religious war, the media is lying, taxpayer enough. So all of a sudden this little boy has appeared out of nowhere the last 2 weeks. 19 videos. You got these, 17 here, and you got your 2 videos, 15-minute, 13-minute. He's got 4,500 subscribers, 4.6 thousand subscribers in 2 weeks, and 2 videos. And when I looked at this earlier today, before I made this video, it actually said 4.58 or something. So it's actually gone up this today. It's gone up. It's just going up daily. So how do you get start a channel 13 days ago and you've got 4,500 subscribers? So this is clearly backed by something. Now you can argue what backed by what, this, that, and the other, but basically joined 20th of March 2025. So 6 months old. He's only had videos out for 2 weeks. He's got 17 shorts. And he's got 4,500 subscribers already. It's clearly backed. Someone's put him up there, given him the platform to present this, and then look at the people. He'll go out and talk to these English people. He'll talk to the lowlives that are not at work. You can tell by some of them the way they talk. They don't have a job. They're probably sitting at home claiming benefits all day, and they're going, "Yeah, F the small hats, F these people. I just care about England," and all this kind of shit. You got this guy, he's just taking the mick out of them England flags in illegal. He goes, "You lot are dumb." He goes, "Why do you want a flag in England to remind you that you're in England? How can you forget that you're in England?" But this is Jake. Jake has no idea what's going on. You see, the Edomites are fighting this political campaign. The Most High's put a perverse spirit on them to fight this campaign, to take us towards prophecy. Here we are, the hopeful elect, looking at everything, weighing it all up. We're telling you things that are happening before they happen, and then they happen. We're showing them to you. We're showing you where it's going. But yet Jake, this could be an Israelite. He comes across as one. He ain't got a clue. So it just typifies what's going on. What's this one here? This is the Mirror. Even like these types of newspapers. Now it's, these newspapers are now, a lot of them are online. But, they just, protest erupts over asylum Farage clashes over alleged trade sanctions rows. They got these people in the news, and this is all they do. They just kind of pump you with it. This one as well. So Strong Britain Community. So all they do is just shorts. Look, no videos. One video, 3 minutes. My pizza is on the floor. Deliveroo. So that's the claim apparently. Apparently all the Deliveroo drivers in the UK are illegal immigrants. So they're protesting. But in my head I'm thinking, well, why doesn't anybody protest against Deliveroo and say stop employing illegal immigrants if it's true? But it's, what they're creating is innuendos, like schisms, like stigmas. A stigma is like a bad reputation. So they're creating it, and like I say, these shorts come up. You got this one here, for example. It's a short. It's a video in a gym, a bunch of women in hijabs, and then it says, look at this. Oh my God, look what's happening to England. It's turning into all Muslim. First of all, you don't know what country this video was taken in. Number two, these could all be Edomite women just dressed up like that just to make the video. But that 10-second clip, and then you've got like hundreds of people leaving comments, like 109,000 views, and you've got hundreds of people leaving comments, and then it's just working up that spirit, that perverse spirit. And like I say, people are going out protesting, it's getting violent. You've got ex-BNP people involved in the protests, British National Party, skinheads, thugs. There used to be a big hooliganism problem in the 80s and the 90s in the UK. They used to go to football matches. They've got BNP Party. See, over the last 20 years, all that changed with diversity. They got forced to change. Different nationalities living in the UK. Then you had people got used to you living in the UK and you see some Asian wedding going on and there's a big noise going on up the road. Big Asian wedding, they're all outside the building, but you just dealt with it. Next week you might see an English wedding. Next week you might see an African wedding. People just dealt with it, and there was harmony for the last 20 years. But now all of a sudden people are struggling to get on. Usual suspects, all that kind of stuff. You can see them types of comments, and so these little 10-second videos, 30 seconds, a minute. Look, they've taken a picture of. In India they live pretty a disgusting level of lifestyle. So I don't know what river that is. Probably the Ganges or something. There's some river in India that's full of shit. So they've put River Thames 2030, future of London. So then that's what they do. They go, yeah, And you go back to Albert Pike. Albert Pike is written here. It's written in 1871. What you're going to do, but people are doing it. They're that dumb. They're buying into it and they're fighting against it. They can't sit back and look at it and go, well, I'm just being brainwashed by social media. And it is beautiful because at the same time, I go on the comment boards. You see, now I can hit these Edomites with prophetic scriptures because you go on there, I see them complaining about the invasion, and then I say, well, this is karma for divide and conquer. And then they come back with some BS, and then I say, well, here's Revelation 13:10, that those who lead into captivity shall go into captivity, and then they go quiet. Some of them try and talk shit, some of them, and so what it is, you're starting to be able to put the fear into these people. They've all heard of the Book of Revelation. They all know, oh, you had the divide and conquer, the British, the transatlantic slave trade. Did you not have people in captivity? Did you not invade other people's lands? Now you're complaining that they're invading your lands. Does the Book of Revelation not say that there is a recompense for divide and conquer? And you show them the scripture. And so the fear, we can actually put the fear into them. So I'm kind of enjoying it. But this is what they're doing. Like I said, I don't want to play these. But I'll leave the links for these and you can go through it. And it's clearly brainwashing. 55,000 subscribers. When was this? February 2024. So, and some of it, like this one here, look, welcome to England 2025, UK street food 2025. And then they're showing these foreigners cooking street food. and how disgusting it is, and you've got people on the comment board saying about Muslims this and Muslims that. But these people aren't Muslim, because that, when you look closely, that thing's a pig. They're roasting a pig. So I don't know what nationality it is, but people just, they're it's gone beyond, like, people are beyond reasoning, and this is why you have to have a destruction. When you actually check it, the Most High is right. That you could never, like, go to these Edomites and explain to them what they did wrong, and show them, and for them to then say, oh, you know what, we did bad, here you go, reparations, whatever. That could never happen. These people, they don't have that. It's just not in them to do that. When you bring that up, it disgusts them. The fact that you think that you can ask for that. They see themselves as above you. Don't forget Obadiah. The pride of thy heart has deceived thee. So, like I said, if I didn't have the truth, you'd be looking around thinking, shit, my mum was right. It's time to learn Punjabi and go back home. But I'm not on that. Fuck that. We're on Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And so, we got the faith. And we have the faith that the Most High will deliver us from these scenarios. And this is another one, Ulysses of Eriu. I think that pretty much means island. And so what they're doing, this is another channel. And they, same sort of thing, like illegals outsmarting the Garda. The Garda is what they call the police over there. So it's just constant, brainwashing videos. Anti-immigration, everything's anti the government. We're not allowed to do this, but the foreigners are allowed to do this. Abominations walk on our streets. Some black girl. Like I said, I don't want to watch them all and bring them up, but this is what they're doing. Social media, they put it out there. They're using it as a tool. So September the 13th. So today, this morning, is the 8th of September. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Last night, you had the 7th of September. You had that blood moon. The blood moon, apparently, it was going to be visible to 85% of the planet Earth. And it was the longest ever blood moon that they've recorded. The amount of time that it lasted. So the Most High is about to bring judgment. And the turning of the world upside down is going to get more. It's going to become more. It's shaking. Everything's going to, eventually the earth physically is going to shake and be turned upside down, if you like. But society has to be turned upside down. And that's a dreadful thing. Because, the minute you look around, everything's kind of normal. The scriptures say in certain places, life will carry on as normal until the day of the Lord. People will be marrying, eating and drinking. But in some places, life is going to be totally gone, totally broken down. Violence, uproars of the people, sedition, going against the leaders. I mean, this is the September the 13th protest. Tommy Robinson, so he's another one. He gets paid by the small hats, and he's pretty much paid opposition, speaking out, claiming that the Muslims want to turn the UK into a Muslim state. So Tommy Robinson calls for no masks, no alcohol, no violence at his free speech festival in London. He issued an urgent call on social media. So he would do that. But the types of people, like I say, that turn up to these events are ex-British National Parties, ex-people smugglers, ex-thugs, ex-football thugs. So they're looking for a fight. And, what better excuse to fight than to fight for their own country? Says the groups describe themselves as proud Englishmen who have a common goal to show Birmingham and the rest of the country of how proud we are of our history and freedoms and achievements. Oh, that's it. The group's Operation Raise the Colours. So that's the thing about the flags. Operation Raise the Colours. Woley warriors and Woley Castle warriors maintain the movement is for patriotic purposes only. Robinson's real name is Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon, but took on the pseudonym to hide his identity and criminal history, which he was successful in doing until the connection was uncovered in July 2010 by Searchlight magazine. The name Tommy Robinson is understood to have come from a prominent member of the Luton Town's MIG, a football hooligan crew that follows Luton Town. What did I tell you? So, without even reading it. So, he's taken that name, Tommy Robinson, from an ex-football hooligan as a pseudonym. His real name's Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. He gets paid by the small hats. He's pretty much paid opposition. And he's going up there, they've paid him and said, go and stand up for the Englishman. Go on social media, go on these platforms. Yeah, we might put you in jail here and there if you push the boundaries, but you're going to get paid a healthy sum. And that's what he's getting. How do you know a man's lying when he can't even give you his name? If he's part of this system and everything was all honest and above board, why can't he just step up and just give you his full name? But now he's giving you a fake name. Because what he's doing isn't really right. Another thing that happened so that's coming up next weekend, next Saturday. What happened yesterday or the day before, Saturday, Sunday, this weekend, 6th and 7th, you had over 800 arrested at Palestine Action protest in London. So what it is, the government came out last week and said you can't protest for Palestine Action anymore. That's dead. We're not allowing it. So people were saying, oh, we're going to go and protest anyway, September the 6th, September the 7th or whatever. They planned it, they turned up, they protested. Apparently like 1,500 people turned up, but the police could only arrest 1/3 of them, and 2/3 couldn't get arrested. There was no manpower to do it. Now you've got this other protest coming up next weekend with this Tommy Robinson. And what it's showing is, that your freedom of speech is getting clamped down on. Eventually they want to clamp down on social media, stop this word going out. But at the same time they're showing that they don't have the manpower to actually go out and arrest everybody and deal with this properly. So again, what would be the answer? If you've got 3,000 people protesting and you can only afford to go out and arrest 1,000, and these people keep coming out every week, how do you really control it? You put a digital MOTB under their skin. You say, well, if you go into this zone, if you leave your 15-minute city, we turn everything off. So you won't even make it to the protest site. And if they really want, they can go online and track and trace you and see where the location of your device under your skin. So it's all heading that way. And at the same time, it's getting aggressive. There's little bits of violence here and there, protesting, sedition, people speaking up against the governments. They're going out, waving these flags. Who are you waving it to? You waving it to the man on a 9 to 5 going to work. He don't care. He's got to go to work. If I drive down the street and there's a flag up on an English flag, what does that do for me? Nothing. I still got to go to work. I've got to get home. I've got to take my little one to school. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. It's got nothing to do. So who are you waving the flag to? The immigrants don't care. They got here. They're illegal. They don't care. They ain't going home. They just want to make their money. A lot of the talk actually in the UK is that people are saying, oh, some of these immigrants they're single men, military age men. The same thing that was happening in America a year ago. So the agenda, the perverse spirit is spreading. It's the beast system. And so the fact that England, the UK, or the city-state of London is one of those unclean frogs, and then being in the UK, you're going to feel the effects. So they're talking now, I think they are actually saying that a digital ID is coming. I heard reports the other day that the English government want to issue a digital identity very soon. Now, whether that's a card, more likely to be a card or something on your phone. I think it would more likely to be something on your smartphone. So when that comes into play, that's just one step closer to the device under your skin. And that's coming very soon. The EU already have their digital currency up and running. And yesterday, the 7th of September, they had this national alert on the telephones in the UK. So everybody with their phone, I think it was 3 o'clock, the phone went off, some alarm ringing, saying, this is a whatever. I didn't even read it properly, to be honest. This is some sort of thing. National alarm, blah, blah, blah. Test run, this, that, and the other. So obviously, who knows? The UK government are planning for war. I keep telling these people, your government is planning for war, which means your nation is going to war. You need to prepare. But how can they prepare? Because they're too busy protesting for their freedom of speech, painting flags, and protesting for Palestine and all that. So it's getting hectic, as they say. But I'll try and leave the links for these channels in the description box, so you can kind of like flick through them, and then you can kind of get an idea, and you see kind of like the talk, and it's just propaganda. But then you go on the comment boards and you read people's comments, and you realize how stupid the people are, because they buy into the propaganda. But then you have a moment of clarity, and you say, well, this is all the Most High is doing. He sent a perverse spirit. He's going to F this place up, and we love it. We actually love it. So I was just checking. I've been through everything here. Don't know why that's doing that. Yeah, I've pretty much hit everything here. I mean, yeah, 15-minute cities. There was a 15-minute city. There's this one as well. So, like, you got the average UK person is like going on about the flags, not really paying attention to what's really going on. But then you do have one or two here and there. This is person's called Carl Vernon. Carl Vernon talks. Is this the 15-minute city? So he's not really sitting there banging on about your flags and your patriotism. He's got a bit more of a brain on him. He can see what's going on around the world and in the UK. So he comes out and he's warning you of things like 15-minute cities. He's a bit more towards what we are, in that he's using his brain, and he's just not getting carried away with the. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has a viewpoint on it. I'm not really trying to defend him like that. But when you watch his videos, it's more to do with what actually is really going on, what the elites are doing. As you can see here, is this the first 15-minute city? He's talking about World Car Free Day, September the 22nd, and I think London are going to have a car free day. I don't know if it's that same day or whatever else, but it's all pushing us towards that 15-minute city, staying within your zone, within your locality. How will they eventually stop the protesting and the violence? Eventually, that you'll have a digital identity, where it could be on your phone, could be under your skin, and you won't be able to leave certain places. If you go out of that place, you won't be able to. Once the economy crashes and they bring in a digital economy, yeah, you might be able to use that on your phone. That's not quite the MOTB, so you'll be able to use it, but you won't be able to go into certain places because you won't be able to leave that 15-minute city because your monetary system won't be activated to work outside your 15-minute city. So you won't be able to go to the protest. You won't be able to catch the bus or travel down. They'll have checkpoints, so on and so forth, just like they got in China. And that's what's coming. It's the MOTB. And we'll expect it very soon. Before I go, I'll just read this again. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, starting at 11. It says, or starting at 10, it says, but behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. It says, I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. So that's talking about America. But obviously, like I say, the same spirit that is destroying the beast system from within there is also the same beast system in Europe. So the problems I'm explaining in the UK is happening in Germany, it's happening in France. Again, you go on the comment boards, you get these idiots. They're like, Germany, we stand with you. To the UK, we stand with you, and all this kind of crap. So they've got this patriotism, and really, when you step back and you look at it, it's the Edomites, it's the Caucasians. They're the ones with the problem, and that's what makes it beautiful, because the Most High has got these Edomites in this, perplexed, shall I say? He's got them perplexed. They've had it comfortable, and they've had this ruling for so long, and now you're starting to see them lose it. You're starting to see their situation changed. We're able to look at social media and go, well, you're just being predictively programmed. You're being brainwashed. And that's the beauty of it. The Most High has given us the spirit of clarity to sit back and be able to understand it. But meanwhile, the tables have been turned on these Edomites. Even the curses are starting to befall some of them. They're all suffering these problems financially. They're falling out with their family, their loved ones, this and that, their harmony. Even Edomite birth rates are low. So the Most High's got these people literally degenerating. You think about when they came out of the Caucasus. That 1,000 years they were in the dark chains. The book of Revelation speaks of them being under the spiritual chains of darkness for 1,000 years. So they ended up in the Caucasus, and after that they called themselves Caucasian. So they they went to a real caveman-like mentality that you can read up about, that they were living under in that time. But when they came out, they had a time of renaissance, rebirth, and so their minds started to develop. They went out, they discovered things, they took it on board, they used it, and they kept going forward and forward until they were blessed with the sword. So eventually they come up with things like this sword, the weapons, the military power, and here we are today. But now the Most High has got them degenerating. So as much as he's coming to destroy America, and there's going to be a particular point where it just ceases to exist, there'll be no such thing as an American after that. No such thing as America, the place with people on it, living. He's going to end that. That also ends the beast system in one foul swoop. But Edomites, who make up that system, are still going to be here after that to be put into captivity. So that's why you also have to degenerate them. You can't just let them all just hit the brick wall and dead, because you need some of them alive for captivity. So you start to degenerate them, and that's why you look around, you see their system and their mentality, their whole outlook on life is starting to degenerate, and they're struggling to take it. But it says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with the plagues as before. So this is not ancient Egypt, Mizraim. This is a new Egypt, because it says as before. So Egypt is getting plagued again, but it's not what's physically called Egypt today. It's spiritual Egypt, which is Babylon the Great, America. It says with plagues as before. It says, and will destroy all the land thereof. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plagues and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. It says, they that till the ground shall mourn, for their seeds shall fail. It says, through the blasting and hail and with fearful constellation. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. So you think of all these weather things, these weather manipulation tactics that they've been bringing to America lately, causing these floods and these storms. And then eventually they turn up and they say, oh, we're going to build a new city. We're going to build a 15-minute city. Even the fires. And that's going into... and that's the type of part of the prophecies, or part of prophecies written here. It says, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. It says, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. The civil war. It says, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword is a gun. It says, for there shall be sedition amongst men. Sedition is speaking up against powers that be and fighting revolutions. It says, and invading one another. It says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. It says, for because of their pride the cities shall be troubled, and houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. It says, behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, it says, from the south, from the east, and Libanus, to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them. It's like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so will I do also, and recompense in their bosom. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh. This is the Lord power, which is Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. So I'm going to leave it right there. But like I say, I just wanted to go into the, over the last month or so, the last few weeks, you started to see the spirit is really kicking up in the UK with that whole situation. And then you've got this September the 13th march coming in Birmingham next week. A lot of people are on the comment boards. They say they're looking forward to it. And this momentum is not going to stop. It's not going to die down. It's being backed, by these paid oppositions. So ultimately, the elites back it. They push both sides. They push the government with an agenda. They push the people. They how can we say, supply the means for the people to go against the governments. So therein lies the conflict. It's been propelled by the elites, so it's going to keep happening until the system totally breaks down. So people out there thinking this will all be solved and over soon. It won't, because you've got the Most High willing it to happen, and then He's put the will on the elites to make it happen. The elites are supplying both sides, two horns like a lamb, and the people are buying into it. So at some point, this car crash has to occur. So I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakak, Quadash. Until next time, Shalom.